What is going on, fellow web developers? My name is Tyler Potts, and in today's video we're going to be using Nuxt JS to create this taskboard application. I'm going to show you how you can use the Vuex store. I'm going to show you how you can use components and obviously all the other features and benefits of Nuxt JS in this video. So this is what we're going to be building. You can see we have a taskboard. We can add new tasks such as comment on this video. Add that task, it'll be added to the top of the list. We can then select them as done. So obviously guys, don't forget to go subscribe, and then we can check mark that as done. Obviously if you haven't liked the video already, don't forget to go like it. You can also become a member on this channel, so maybe do that, or don't. We'll just delete it, it's up to you. And then don't forget to comment on this video, or don't. Again, it's up to you, and we can remove them as well. And there you go. So that's what we're going to be building in this tutorial. So we can just add a bunch of cool things like milk to our list. Oh, and you can also hit enter instead of hitting the add button as well, which is a nice little feature. So guys, without further ado, let me show you how you can build this taskboard application. Okay guys, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get started by creating our Nux project. Now to create our Nux project, we need to use npm or npx, and we're going to say npx create Nuxt app, and then what we're going to do is say something along the lines of dot to create in the current directory. So now if we hit enter, it should give us some options. Need to install the following packages: create Nuxt app, proceed, yes. It will then install the Nuxt app. And now it's going to ask us some questions about our project. Project name, YouTube, that's fine. We're going to be using JavaScript. We're going to use npm. We're going to use no UI frameworks. We do not need any modules for this project. We don't need any lint tools, none of this. I'm just going to enter for the rest. This can be a single page app or universal. We're just going to select single page app. We can render this statically. We can select the JS config just because it's better for VS Code when you're not using TypeScript, and then we can just hit enter through the rest of these, and then that's going to generate our projects as you see on the left. And then hopefully once this is finished, we can actually start building our application. Okay developers, so we are now done. You can see down here is finished, and it can say we can run npm build, npm start, or anything like that. I'm just going to clear the terminal for now, and we're going to do a couple of things before we get started. So one of the things we want to do is we want to create a new folder. We're just going to say new folder, let's call it assets, and then inside here let's create a CSS with the main.css file in it, and I'm going to basically just paste in some code here. Now I'm not going to go through this code with you. You can see there's a few bits. There's just over 100 lines of code, 118 lines of code, and here you go. So I'll slowly go through a few of it, but this will be on GitHub. So if you want this styling, if you want the same style as me, you can head over to GitHub and download the CSS or copy the CSS from there and paste it in here like I have. I'm not doing CSS in this video because it's all about the functionality of Vue. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to delete both the components in here. We're going to go into pages, index.vue. We're going to remove this tutorial, and then inside of here we're just going to add a plain div that says hello world for us to get started with. We're then going to go and, well, saying that, we can start the surfer now. So we can say npm run def, and it's going to start our development surfer. So let's let this run. We also need to go into Nuxt config while that's setting up, and down here in CSS we need to link our CSS path. So now we can use the squiggly tilde assets /css /main.css to actually link the CSS to our page. So let's go back here, refresh, and hopefully once this is done loading, let's actually open this up. You can see it should be compiled now, so it should load, and there you go, we get the hello world, but the CSS currently is not linked, and that may be because we started our server before adding this in. But let's just save this again. It should reload, and now there you go, our styling has now kicked in and it's now working. So we just had to resave this file. So let's close this. Let's close nuxt.config, and let's go into our store. So we want to basically set up a Vuex store. For those who don't know what Vuex is, it allows you to handle the state or the data inside of your Vuex or your Vue or Nuxt application. It's basically how you store your data on a global scale. Instead of storing them inside a component, you store it on a Vuex store or state. So let's create a index.js file inside of store. And then inside of here, what we're going to do is we're going to say export const state is equal to an arrow function. And inside this arrow function, we're going to say tasks like this. It's an empty array because the task list we're going to create is going to be an empty array to start with, and then we'll be able to add elements. So for example, we would have something in here which has the content of get milk and the done task set as false or true depending on whether we've set it to true or false. So it'll be something like that. We will then create mutations. Mutations allow us to mutate or change the state. And basically what we're going to say is mutations equal to a object, and now we can add in some different mutations in here. So the first one is going to be adding a task to the store. So we're going to do an add task mutation. Now you're probably wondering why I capitalize this. It's just something I do with my mutations. All mutations before we commit them are in block capital letters. It's just a naming convention. You can do this in lowercase if you want. You can say add task or do it however you want. You don't even need to do underscore. You can just do block, or you can do anything you want. I just wanted to explain that so you knew. We're then going to say state.tasks is equal to an array, and then we're going to say we're going to pass through here. We'll say content is equal to our task, which we pass through, which will be a string, and then done is equal to false. We're then going to say state.tasks. And now the reason we are doing it like this, let me just remove those. I did not see those there. So what we're saying here, let's close that sidebar. So what we're doing is we're getting the state tasks and we're going to completely set it to a new array. We're going to add in the newest item first. So we're going to say add in the new content task done false, and then we're going to add in the rest of the tasks that we already have behind it. So we're going to say we're going to get the current task and we're going to add them after the new one. That way our new task always is at the top of the list. Now you can obviously do this the opposite way around. You could put state.tasks or whatever, or you could just do state.tasks.push to add a task to the end. So you could go here and say content.task false, or you could say state.task. And the other way to add it to the start of the array is using state.task.unshift to add it to the beginning. So it would be this one here is equal to this here. But we're going to use this here because it makes more sense to me. So let's get rid of that, and there we go. That's our state.task. The other one we're going to need is remove task, which is obviously going to remove a task. So we're going to pass through the task. We're going to say state.tasks.splice, and then we're going to say state.tasks.index off, and we're going to pass task. And in here, we're just going to say 1. So we're going to find the index of the task we pass through to remove. And then what we're going to do is just remove one of them. Finally, we're just going to toggle task, which is basically just going to say task.done is equal to not task.done. Which means our done state, which we set here, will change to true if we click it, or it'll change to false. And that's all we need to do inside of our Vuex store. So take this in, have a look, make sure you understand it. If you don't, then drop me a comment below and I'll try and explain it to you in better detail. So let me just close down this because we do not need this anymore. The next thing we'll do is we're going to lay out our actual application here. So let's go and delete this hello world, and let's just say main. Now inside of our main, we're going to have a h1, and it's going to be task board. We're then going to have a paragraph that just says create a list of tasks. Next up, we're going to say .create new, which is where we're going to create our new task. And then we're just going to have an input inside of here of type text. We're going to remove the name and ID, but we're going to say fee model is equal to a new task, which is going to be a data property we set below. We're then going to say placeholder is equal to add a new task, just like that. And finally, we're going to add a key press function, which is going to say key press dot add, or sorry, dot enter is equal to add task. So a key press means obviously when you press a key, and then you can add a dot notification here, a dot notation here to basically enter in a key. So we could on space, we could say dot, and you can see here you've got efforts like stop, delete, down, enter, escape, left, right. You can add a bunch of different characters here, but we're just going to hit enter to allow us to basically handle the enter key. So when we press enter, we will call this function here. So let me just break this down. We're going to break these down line by line, each attribute. That way it looks a bit neater. And there you go. We then want to add under this a button, which is going to say add, which will also have a click event that says add task, the same as what we have here. So if we now go back, you can see we already have the task boards title and also the place add. But if we click this, we're actually going to have an error in our console, which means new task or add task doesn't currently exist. So let's just quickly close this, and let's obviously add in the functionality after we've added in the actual task list. So below here, we're going to say diff.tasks, and this is where we're going to have all our tasks. Now we are going to create a component for this. So we're going to have a task component we import. So let's go down to our script now, and let's obviously add in a few pieces of script. We're going to say data is equal to obviously a function which returns the data we want, and the only piece of data we need is our new task. So we're going to say new task is going to be equal to an empty string to start with. We're then going to say after our data we want methods, which is obviously the methods is where we store the functions of our app. So like here, add tasks on click, this is where our functions are going to be. So we can say add task, and we can basically say if this dot new task, just to double check it's not empty, we could say this dot $store dot commit, and this is how we commit a mutation. So when we want to make a mutation, we say commit, and then we can say add task like this, and we can pass through our new task. So we're saying this is our new task. This refers to this block here. So anything inside of here, e.g. the data, we could say this dot new task or this dot add task to get the actual add task command. And there we go. And then once we've added our new task to our store, we can say this dot new task is equal to an empty string to reset our input field. So this will then add a task to it. So let's go back here and let's just say test. We hit enter, that's actually done something, and we should not have any errors here. Let's clear this console so you can actually see that a bit better. So let's say test, hit add, and there you go. We no longer get any errors. Obviously, we're not seeing any tasks here. So let's just go back here, and just before we can say store.state.tasks. And we should, there you go, you can see our array here. So we have test and test, two different tests. Let's add another one, let's say another one. Hit enter, and there you go, it says content, another one, done, false. So let's create our task object. So we're going to have a component which we're going to set as task. So we're going to call it task, and we're going to say fee4. It's going to be, we're going to loop through, and we're going to say for every task inside of our store.state.tasks, we're going to get a key which is going to be equal to our task.id, although task.id doesn't actually exist. So normally you would, we're actually going to say I and get the index of it, and we're going to then pass through I. We're then going to finally say our task is equal to the task, and then close off our task here. And there you go, that is our task. Now we need to go and create this. Now the nice thing about Nuxt is we do not have to import task and then return it anywhere, because in a components array, because it will actually already be in our global. It's automatically added by default, so we just have to create a new task.view file inside of components. And in here, we can just say view, enter. Now, you're probably wondering, how did I just press view, enter, and create all this boilerplate code? So I have an extension inside of my VS Code here called Future or Feta. I don't know how you pronounce that. I feel like Future is because it's supposed to be few, but then it's just an E, so we'll figure out. But it basically allows us to do a bunch of cool little things. I highly recommend you check this out because it's absolutely awesome. But anyway, on to the next part. Inside of here, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. We can then say create a diff inside of here, and we can give it the class of task, or we can just check that task.done, And if task is done, we can say is complete. Else we can just leave it as an empty string. Once that is done, and now we can then just say content, and this is where we're going to pass through our task.content, which will then obviously pass it through. And then we can have some buttons, and we can say button, and this one can be, we're going to once again just use the, we're going to say task.done, and we're going to say if task.done is true, that means we've already selected it as done, so we're going to say undo. And then we are then going to say if it's not true, then we're going to say done or complete, whatever you want to write there. And there you go, that's now going to set the name. We'll need to create a function on this in a second, but let's create our other button that just says delete, and we're going to give this a class of delete just because we will need some styling for that. So let's go have a look what this looks like. Let's just say test, add, and can't read the property of done. Now the reason we're getting this error is because back in task.view, let's close this sidebar, we need to obviously say props task because it's something we're pulling through from the outside. So in our index, we're passing through this task prop, and we need to place it inside of here. Now if we add a test, you can see it's added here. If we hit done, it doesn't do anything. If we hit delete, it doesn't do anything because we need to add the functionality. So let's go back in here. Now we're going to create obviously methods. Obviously, as I've shown before, methods is where we put our functions. Now we need the toggle done, and then we're going to pass through a task here, and then we can say this $store.commit, and then we're going to say toggle task. Now this toggle bit obviously needs to be the same as what you named it inside your index.js here, which is toggle task, and then we can pass through our actual task here. We can then say remove task is going to be equal to task, and we can say this $store.commit is equal to remove task. Now we could actually make this simpler and not pass a prop through and just say this .task, because that is going to get the current task we are using. And then on our button, we can say at click is equal to toggle done, just like that. And then we can say at click is equal to remove task as well. And now if we go back and we click toggle done, you can see that now toggles this as done. If we hit delete, it removes it. So let's add a few tasks. Let's say subscribe, let's add like the video, let's add comment your questions below. And there you go, you see we've got these. We can hit this one as done, that one as done. We can then say, you know, we've done all of these, let's just delete them. And there you go, you can see this task list is now working really nicely, and that's absolutely awesome. So guys, I'm going to give you some homework to do on yourself. So now I've added in the ability, I've shown you how you can create a to-do list. Let's say we can have, again, let's just go back for the subscribe, watch the rest of Tyler Potts' videos. And there you go. Just I've shown you how you can add, complete, and done. Now what you need to do is you need to go away and add the ability to save it. So if I refresh this page, you're going to see they disappear. Now your task is to learn how you can actually save those using either local storage in JavaScript, or you can add a server or something in the backend like Firebase or something like that to actually save your tasks too. Now that's just a little thing I want you guys to do on your own. But if you do get stuck, feel free to jump in my Discord channel and obviously drop a message in, get help in one of the help channels, and someone should be able to help you. If I'm around, I will try and help you myself. So guys, that is the end of this video. I hope you have learned a bunch of different things. If you have, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. If you're new around here, do not forget to smash that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to join the Discord server. We've got a bunch of awesome people in there. And one last mention is, we have memberships on this channel, give you extra perks in Discord. You also get extra perks when I go live, you get little names, and there's a bunch of different things. If you hit the join button below, it will give you some options and also show you what you can get from becoming a member on my channel. But for now guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.